Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's form building webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be taking us through the builder today. Today, we'll be going over building and editing conditional forms based off of a specific answer selection by the patient. If you do have any questions as we go along, please hold on to those. I will be opening up that chat a little bit later in the webinar. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or go back over anything that we may need to. But let's jump right in. We do have a bit to go over today. We'll be working out of our packets and forms page today off of our FormDr training packet. So to get there, we're just going to go to the three dots on the right side of that packet and click Edit Forms. And that'll take us to step one of our builder, which is the Add Forms page. And this page is where you'll come to add or remove any tabs from this packet. I've already set a few up for us today, so we'll just go right into the builder by going next to Build. And first, we'll talk a little bit about the purpose of building a form conditionally like this. It can save you some room in terms of how many packets you're using. If you do have a form that is basically the same, except there might be slight differences between a male or a female form, or a minor or an adult form, or something like that. I guess for the purposes of today's demonstration, we'll use if the patient was a minor. And so basically, you'll have a set of information that you'd be collecting from the patient, and that's going to need to be collected regardless, right? So we will need the patient's name and address, all of the other information, regardless of whether they're a minor or an adult. But then we can have our second section where we ask more questions from the patient, and maybe, I'll just add some single select options here to simulate a new section being built. And we have our additional questions for our patient, and maybe these will differ slightly depending on if the patient is a minor or an adult. If they're an adult, maybe these questions are directly asking the patient, and if it's a minor instead, these questions are maybe being asked to the patient or to the patient's parents or guardians or something like that. But basically what we can do is we'll build a second column or a second section here as well, just to show a visual difference of how they will be displayed. So we'll pretend that this is the adult and the minor sections with their slight differences. But basically, we'll just need to ask a qualifying question. So we'll add a single select option question here, and we'll ask, is the patient a minor? You could also do this based off of an answer of the sex question, but we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a little bit. We'll start with this style. But as the date of birth widget won't be able to automatically populate into another selection, we can ask our qualifying question here, is the patient a minor? If they are a minor, we can have it display our minor questions to our parents or guardians. And then if they're not a minor and they are an adult, we have our adult questions here. Now, in this same question, in the conditional formatting area, underneath the yes answer selection, confirming that they are a minor, we can also maybe include a parental consent or something like that. Just a little simulated paragraph here. All right, this is a consent form. All right, we have our parental consent here, and then maybe we need that parent or guardian signature. All right, and now if the patient is a minor and they select yes to this question, they'll be presented with all of the pertinent information that they'll need to collect from the parents as well. Maybe there's a parent first and last name. Parent number 1. We can just duplicate that for parent number 2 and update that number right there. And there we go. And then if they're not a minor, we'll just ask the questions we need to ask them and they can move on from this section. They won't be presented with any information they don't need to fill out. And we can go to our style page, as this is a live preview of the form, and we can see those conditional answers being presented in action here. So if the patient selects no, they're just presented with that adult information, Otherwise, we'll collect those parent names, have that parental consent in there as well. And you can kind of set this up throughout the rest of the form by using the auto-population function. So we'll talk about that a little bit next, and then we'll roll into how I would recommend setting up a male or female packet by using that auto-population. But just to talk about auto-population first, you'll just need to know how it works. And it's basically going to be copying this field name shortcode, this random collection of letters here, into that same field in a different element of the same type. So for the text field, for instance, that can be found here on the right side of the input section. It will be found under field name. So if we were to copy and paste this one into the one above it and replace that field name with the same one, then they will act as one single widget. So now when we start to write into one of them, it will automatically fill all other text fields that have that shortcode in that section with that answer that's been filled out. The patient name will do this by default, and you'll notice that when we open up that patient name widget, we will be unable to edit those field name shortcodes. These are set for this widget, which means that this widget, whenever used, is always going to autofill. It's very important to only use this widget to collect the name of the patient or the person whose information you're intending to collect, because the name filled out in the first and last name fields of this widget are going to be the name that submission is stored under on your send and receive page. So any other guardian or parent name should always just be taken with a general text field widget. And you'll be able to update the styling by adding a couple of extra inputs if you want it to mirror the way that patient name field displays. All right, we'll get rid of those. Just wanted to demonstrate those shortcodes. And now to talk about how that's going to work with the selection options. It's going to need to have not only the same shortcode, which we can find here just under the title. You can always tell because it's going to be randomized. There won't be any numbers or anything included. It's just going to be lowercase and uppercase letters included. It'll always be randomized, and any new any newly added element or question from the sidebar over here is going to generate its own randomized shortcode that's not being used elsewhere in the form to prevent any of that auto-population from happening. But if you do want a selection option or a drop-down to be able to auto-populate, they will just need to follow a certain set of rules, and that is just to have the same amount of answer selections and make sure that those values are matching as well. And the value can be anything that you want. It doesn't have to be true or false. You'll notice that when we add any more, it just says option 3, option 4. If we were to add a drop-down, it will automatically default to option 1, option 2, so on and so forth. But you'll just need to make sure that the shortcode and the values of those answer selections match. The display of the answer text does not have to match. It simply needs those values to match and that shortcode. All right, so we can update the shortcodes here. Our values are already set to those true and false defaults. And so we can go next to style. And now when one of these has been selected, the other one will have been selected with that same selection. And again, they will all act as one, so if one is changed later on in the form, it will change all of the ones before it. And just to show you that you don't need to use the randomized code that it's given you, maybe this is, a minor question, so maybe we want to title this patient minor or something like that to help us remember, so that when we're setting this up later on in the form on different tabs, we won't need to go back and collect that random shortcode that we'll never remember. It might be something that we can remember more easily, or maybe have written down something that's pertaining to that question. And then so we could move this to a different tab as well. So maybe we have, we'll just go ahead and move this whole question over to our medical history form using the move function. Whenever you open up an element, you can use that move function to move it to the bottom of the tab that you've selected. And then maybe we have two different sections here. We'll just duplicate this section. And we'll go ahead and add these into that same bit. Now, if you're going to be collecting the same bit of information regardless of whether that patient's a minor or an adult or male or female or whatever the case may be, then you don't necessarily have to set this up this way. If you do have an extra set of questions that might be asked if one is or isn't, then you can set it up this way just to not include those questions for anybody that doesn't need it. But again, it won't matter which tab these questions are on. As soon as one of them has been selected, the others that share that information will be selected as well. So we can change that to yes, and this one will have been selected yes as well. And just so that you can see that these do not need to be the same either. Maybe this is patient is a minor, patient is an adult. So those answer displays won't need to match just those values and that short code. So you can kind of get a different set going on each tab specific to the patient's information that's been answered on the first page. Now, I mentioned earlier this can also be used for male or female forms. In that case, maybe we'll take our information out here just for our display purposes, so I don't need to build them again. And we'll just use these two this time. We won't need to worry about that parental consent. But for a situation like this, I would recommend bringing that sex question down. And then from here, we can bring in those other two. Just to make it more simple, we'll get rid of that third option just to make it more clear. And then we'll make sure to want to update these short codes for those additional questions. Don't forget about those. And then male, female. And now this will display. The reason that I pull it out of this column, which if we want everything to format on the last row the same as the rest of that, we can use a group tool as a spacer. It won't affect the way the patient interacts with that form. It will simply just take up that final space and force those other two elements to be formatted the same as the rest that are in that column. But the reason that I bring this out of that column is so that all of the conditional information from inside here will have the full width of the area of the form to be displayed. So we can go next to style. When we select our option, we'll have the full area to be displayed. If we do have this question with all of that conditional information still within that column, it will only be given 1/3 of the area to display that information because that parent element has only been given that amount of space. So for any questions that are going to have a lot of conditional information, you will want to place them on their own line just to give the conditional information a little bit more room to breathe. And it's also very important to remember that if you are printing out forms as a blank PDF for in-office use, all conditional information is going to be presented. So that would mean that the male information as well as the female information would be presented stacked on top of each other. And so you'll have a lot of unused space in the left area before you get to that next set of questions. If we pulled that down and out onto its own row, then the amount of space that question is going to take up is going to be a whole lot smaller. All right. But you can set this up with a single question at the top of each tab moving forward down the form. And depending on if they are male or female, they'll get the correct set of answers, and they'll only need to make that selection one time on the first page. So that can be very helpful using the auto-population function to generate those questions that they'll need to be asked just based off of that first selection. Again, you'll just want to make sure that the name and the values are matching for those parent questions on each tab. And as you go through the packet, there might be some forms that don't necessarily, they won't matter whether the patient is a male or female or a parent or guardian, whether that's a medical release form or something like that. You can build out those forms normally and only on those tabs that it might be, important to have that on to go ahead and utilize that function. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open up that chat now, just in case we do have any questions. Do tend to have many over the conditional formatting, but the chat is open. Feel free to get those questions in, and I'm more than happy to try to answer those before we close up today. All right. And then when it comes to conditional questions too, you can go as deep as you want to in terms of conditional formatting. So if you wanted to layer in both of these, whether the patient's a minor, and then yes, they are a minor, and then is the patient male or female, and then yes, they are male or female, you can set this up. We'll just duplicate this just for instance. You can have as many conditional fields within a conditional element or a conditional question as you like, just as far as your sanity will allow, clicking through all of those and finding what you need to update. But you can have multiple conditional elements. You can break this down, so you could take essentially 4 different packets and conditionally build them to be all into one, and then just kind of dynamically change based on what the patient is answering as they go along. But again, just remember, if we do build this out and we want to use this as a blank PDF, which we can go to the Packets and Forms page, click those 3 dots on the right side of our packet, and this time we'll go to Settings, Create PDF down at the bottom right to create a blank PDF to be used in Office for all of those pesky patients that never fill their stuff out on time. But just to demonstrate that all of that conditional information underneath those questions is going to be displayed. So just keep that in mind if you are going to be using blank PDFs as you are building out the forms. If you do have a lot of conditional information, just be aware of that for any formatting that you might want to utilize as you're building that out. The question is, have all my forms on the web page via FormDr? Can I just select 1 or 2 forms that you have that I prefer? I apologize, I may misunderstand the question, but you have the forms embedded on your website using the one of the link or embed codes? Okay. So this will link to the entire packet that you have. So unless the forms are in their own packets, then that link will just link to all of them. However, if you only want certain ones to be displayed at certain times, you can hide certain forms in those packets as well. So we'll just go ahead and open up just the public link of the form here. And then maybe we want to hide the medical release and the consent form and only have these first 2 being displayed. What we can do is go into the edit forms, and then we'll go next to build. And then you're going to use this hide from user toggle on all of the tabs that you don't want to be displayed. So these will hide them from the patient whenever they click that link, or if they're being displayed currently like on your website, then those won't be displayed until you want them to be again. All you'll need to do is go back to the builder and then uncheck that hide from user toggle. But we can go back to publish and save these changes. And then whenever we go back to that public link, we can see that it still has 4 forms in there, but it will only display 2 for the patient. And then if the patient submits that form, right? So we can go back to our send and receive page. We'll have our brand new submission here. They will have only been able to see those first 2 tabs, but these last tabs that we've hidden will also be displayed for you. They just won't have shown to the patient. So this is also really nice if you have any staff-only information or something like that. You can just hide that from the patient, and then it will always be there for you. So once the patient submits that form, you can go in, update whatever information you need to, click that update button to save that, and then you're good to go from there. Your patient will have never seen the staff-only information. They won't have a chance to fill that out by mistake or anything like that, because it always tends to be a doctor's signature that the patient was on autopilot and just kind of signing everything that they see. And then whenever it's your turn to go sign it, it's already been signed and it becomes a whole thing. So, but that would be the best way to, if you are on the starter plan, for instance, and only have 1 packet available to you, and you only want to be displaying certain ones at one time, then that would probably be the best way to go about it. Otherwise, you can just build those out into their own separate packets. And then a packet can contain a single form or as many as you like, but that will just be the container of those forms that are sent to the patient. All right. And just as we're on the topic of hiding information, you can also do that with individual elements or sections of information as well. You'll just want to click on that orange pencil icon for the individual element if that's what you're looking to do, and that will be that hide from user toggle for that individual element. The column widget will also have this functionality as well, so you can hide an entire group of information from the patient. And even if any one of these items are being are set to required, as long as it's being hidden from user, it will not affect the patient's ability to submit that form. All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions as of yet. As I close up here, if there are any more questions that come through, I'm more than happy to answer those. But that will conclude today's webinar over the conditional questions. And we do have other previous webinars where we've gone over this information as well. If you would like to see any of our previous webinars that we have posted and recorded, you can go to My Account, Support, and then search guide. This will take you to our product guide, and the product guide can answer many questions as well, just in terms of using the account or building forms. Building forms, for instance, we do have articles on all of our widgets and how to autofill, things that we talked about today, autofill fields, autofill into a paragraph, things like that. But we'll have some imagery for you and some instructions on how to get that done. But if we go back to the home screen of our product guide and we go to the FormDr update section, this will take you to our recent releases and our webinar schedule. All of our recent feature releases can be found here on the right side, and then the webinar schedule on the left side. We will be posting those previous ones. So for instance, in February, we went over building and creating new forms, conditional questions here as well. So we'll have some similar information going over that as well. But March webinar schedule was all about the widgets in the builder. We went through each one of them and how to use them. So this one, this set of webinar videos is very, very helpful when it comes to building forms. And then of course, April's has been going over updating and editing existing forms, which we will kind of continue on into the month of May. We will have that May schedule posted soon, so please keep an eye out for that. But if you are interested in signing up for anything that is dated out in the future, you could just click on that link from here. It'll take you right to the sign up page for that day's webinar. And then once we have posted the recording of that video, it will change to posted. Click here. Once you click that, it will take you right to our YouTube channel, and we'll have all of those videos posted for you there as well. Another question: how do I add a new form that I have made to my packet? So if it is, if you're creating one into a packet, you'll just want to use the edit form. So if you're building it from scratch or anything like that, you can use the scratch tab, which is just going to be which all can be added here on the Add Forms page, by the way. The Scratch tab is just going to be a blank area. It's going to come with that patient name widget by default, just because it's going to be needed at least once in each packet, but it will just be a blank area for you to build out that form as you like. Your second option will be to use one of the pre-made templates from our template library. And if you do see any one of them that looks like it could, be edited to your liking, absolutely feel free to do so. This can often be a nice way to get a head start to just place something that's already structured down for you. And whenever you do click on that image, it'll take you to a live preview of the form. So if you have anything that's required that you click past, it will let you know. And then of course, any conditional information can be tested as well. So you can kind of get a feel for how the patient's going to use that form. And then we also offer some packets as well as some single forms. This is a packet, so if we chose to use this one, we would receive all 4 tabs within. So that can save you a little time in terms of building out forms. However, if the form exists in a different packet, if you've already built it out into a different packet or as a standalone packet, you can always use the import form function to import a duplicate copy of that page into this current packet. So say we need that upload cards page from our registration packet, we can just import a duplicate copy over. It won't pull it out of the other packet. It just makes a new one in this one. And then if you're getting anything built by our team, you can use the convert file option. This will be available for all pro and higher plan accounts, but you do have the ability to upload a document for our team to build that for you. And then once they publish that, if you do have the form builder alerts on the My Account page right here, then once that packet is published, you'll receive an email notification just saying, hey, this packet has been published and it's all ready to go and be used again. All right, of course. Does look like we are running out of time today. I do apologize, but if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our support staff. To do so, you can also get to them by going to My Account and Support. Again, please check out our guide. It can't answer many questions prior to needing to reach out to support, but if you would like to or need to, you can do so in the section below. There's a drop down for reasons why you're reaching out. If you do have any documentation or notes, screenshot, video, whatever the case may be, anything that you might be able to upload, it's all very helpful for our team in terms of assessing what the issue is and taking care of that in a timely manner. And of course, the details, this will be the message our team receives in that support ticket. So of course, the more detailed to your issue, the more quickly our team will be able to take care of that for you. And if for any reason our team needs to log into your account, they will ask you for your support code, which can also be found at the bottom of this page. Each account will have its own unique support code, and our support team will need to have access, or will need to be able to access your account. And it's very rare that they'll ask for this. However, sometimes maybe something will need to be looked at from within the account or tested from within. And in those situations, they will ask you for that. But another reminder is that we do host these form building webinars every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. We will be moving into the May schedule next week. So please keep an eye out for that as well. We'll have that posted here shortly. And again, we'll be going further into editing forms and moving things around. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we host onboarding webinars at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And on Wednesdays now, we will be focusing the majority of that webinar over our new feature releases, such as the synced forms and documents and the customizing plan ability. So please feel free to join us on Wednesdays to go deeper into those features. But as we always say, these are all free. So if you have any other staff members that would like to learn this information, or if you would like for them to learn this information, please feel free to send them our way, because we do encourage everybody to join us until they're comfortable with the product and beyond as well if they do enjoy coming. And there's always good information to be learned, so we do enjoy having you. But thank you all for being here today. Hope you have a great afternoon and hope to see you again next time.